I think the Seahawks need to do one of three things in this order. Okay. Choice number one: trade up and get Jalen Walker.
Okay, are you putting this on your note card and in your pocket?
I'm saying this with my chest today.
You're saying it with your chest.
Yep. If you have the opportunity,
we're here. We're to the week of.
If you can trade up for Jalen Walker, now a lot of the mocks have him going number 8 to Carolina.
Yes.
And if that's what happens, this is unfortunately probably out the window because I don't think you're going to get from 18 to 8. But I think that I feel this way for a couple of reasons. One, of all the years to trade up, this might be a good one. Because there aren't a lot of quarterbacks that everybody is trading up for, I think there will be a lot of teams willing to trade back. So if you have the opportunity to go from 18 to 13, 18 to 12, 14, I don't know what the exact number is. It's probably not going to be all the way up to 8. But if you have the opportunity to do that and get elite at the edge, you should do that.
Yeah, I think DJ would say to you, will probably say in his media workups this week and into even Thursday on that set with our buddy Joel Cloud, who I will try to work to see if we can find a way to get him on tomorrow.
Okay.
I think he's going to say that's probably a possibility, Saul, not necessarily Jalen Walker, but for one of these stars, because this is a draft of starters. Not too many stars.
And I think it's worth it if you have the opportunity to get a star at the edge.
Yeah.
And DJ told us last week that Jalen Walker was in a different category. I don't want to see them, drafting a guy who's of the same ilk as Boye Mafe and Derek. Like, you've got that. Yeah. But if you have the opportunity to get somebody great on the edge, somebody who's an upgrade on the edge, I think that would still be more valuable than anything else they could do with their first-round pick.
Would you do it for Ashton Genty at 10?
I would not.
He's at 10.
I would not do
star.
that. No, I would not do that. But if you have the opportunity to trade up for an edge star, and right now it appears that Abdul Carter's not an option, so Jalen Walker would be the only option for that. Mm-hmm. That, to me, would be their number one goal. That's what I would like to see them do more than anything. But I grant that it's very much, out of their hands. If he goes number 8 to Carolina,
and you're not giving away
not much
next
you can
year's
do.
First for that, right?
No,
you're not going crazy on that.
Exactly. So, can you do 18 and a third in order to get up to 13 or 14? If it's something like that, yes. If it's going to be, hey, you start giving up more first-round picks, no. So I said that I grant you, and maybe that's because that word is on my mind. I think the second best thing you do in this draft with number 18 is draft Kenneth Grant. And I don't know whether he's the perfect player, but the upside potential combined with what seems like at the very least a decent floor seems to be about right for incredibly important position at defensive tackle. Anything you can do to get elite on your defensive line, I'm all in.
So you are okay knowing that his best football is not going to be necessarily in 2025?
I am, yes.
Because the dividends it could pay in 26, 27, 28.
Especially with this head coach who, has done this really well and has found ways to really utilize guys up front on defense. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
That's the second choice. Third choice is probably at that point, I think, honestly, to see if you can trade back a few spots. Because as much as I know they need offensive line help, and I do think that I don't mind them doing that in the second round if they're spending the first round on something equally or more valuable, right? Like, I don't want to see them do that for Teterow and McMillan and be like, oh, shoot, I guess now we got to get our linemen second. But, like, if it's for an edge player, if it's for a defensive tackle, fine. Those are positions that you got to draft in the first round. And then if you can get a starter or two in the second round, fine. But I think if you could trade back a couple spots and still get a Booker or a Banks or even the kid from North Dakota State, Zabel, fine. But I would prefer them to trade back and draft.
So what happens, back to your point number one? I think I know your answer to this, but I think it's important to kind of test out the whole thing. What happens to point number one if this draft goes a little funny, like the markets can go funny, like drafts can go funny, like last year's draft went funny, and you were able to get basically your number one defensive player because it was all QBs and tackles and everything else? What if this draft just gets a little funny? What if New York decides, you know what, they put that kid's name up there in that stadium, that's Shedeur Sanders after going 13 and 12. He's something special. And they take him at 3. And New Orleans is like, man, Derek Carr, doesn't want to be here. His shoulder is whack. And Jackson Dart goes number 9. And all of a sudden 3 quarterbacks go. And then let's just say, some of these teams look at what Saquon Barkley did and say, man, we need a running back. And a couple of these kid out of North Carolina is phenomenal. Obviously, it's a generational pick in Genty, and he goes 6 to our buddy Pete, and all of a sudden, like, whoa, man, there's a chance here, to get a star wide receiver, to get a star corner, to get a star safety. If they have one of those just outliers on their own grade sheet, on their own board, in their own war room that John said everything's laid out, and all of a sudden, man, this is a star. Now it's not an edge, but this guy is such an outlier. If they believe that way in Will Johnson, they believe that way in Golden, they believe that way in X, Y, or Z, or a tight end, Loveland. Are you okay with them taking that outlier if the draft gets a little wacky?
Actually, no.
No?
No,
right.
I'm not.
Still can't convince you.
Nope.
All right.
You?
Well, you are steadfast in that, man. You are steadfast in that belief.
You earn the right to do that. You earn the right to do that. I'm going to keep saying the same thing I've been saying to you for a couple of weeks now. Yeah. If you had eaten your vegetables earlier, you could have dessert now. But you didn't eat your vegetables the last couple of years. You decided to get dessert first. You thought you needed a wide receiver and a cornerback a couple of years ago in the first round.
You know what I earned the right to do today, Salt? You know what I earned the right to do? Fast all day.
Oh, lucky you.
Because all I did was eat over the weekend. All I did was eat up in Kalispell, Montana, from jalapeno jam meatballs to steak to salmon to all the tastings we had.
That all sounds pretty good.
All I did was eat. So I have earned the right to not put a thing of food in my mouth.
Well, you have. The Seahawks have not earned the right to do what you just said. If you had taken care of the trenches in a better way the last couple of years, you could have that right. Yeah, sure. You want dessert? Sure. Have a corner. Oh, you think this is going to be a Bananas Foster wide receiver? Go all in. Fine. But you can't do that right now because you didn't eat your vegetables. You didn't eat your entree. And until you do that, you can't draft dessert in the first round.
So wait till you have these s'more things that they made for us that are in the cocktail hour of the wedding.
You're silly today. You're going to be silly today. I can see.
Wait till you have, they take a little torch to it right at the end of it.
Brock, you got to do two things this year. Make your defense great and shore up your offensive line. Those are the two things you have to accomplish this year in the draft. Make your defense better and shore up your offensive line. Those are your priorities. Then you can think about cornerback and tight end and wide receiver and other needs that you have on your team. But your two things you have to do this year in the draft, make your defense better and shore up your offensive line. That to me is like priorities A, B, C, D, and E. And once you've accomplished that, go do everything else. But if you're not going to make your defensive front seven great, and you're not going to make your offensive line decent, then everything else is a complete waste of time and energy to me.
Do you know how you're going to earn the right to dance so well at the reception? You're going to have a few of Haley's signature Huckleberry margaritas.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
You are going to earn the right to get on that dance floor with yours truly.